Up until now in this Streamlabs Desktop tutorial course, sponsored by Streamlabs, we've covered and mostly focused on live streaming. In this video, we're going to talk about recording, because you can use Streamlabs Desktop for recording YouTube videos or TikToks or Reels or whatever, and there are some cool settings that you can use to optimize for that, as well as a cool feature for selectively only recording a couple sources at a time, which could make highlights or montages a lot easier. I'm EposVox, the Stream Professor. We're going to flip on over to the desktop and check it out. In this episode, we're going to be talking about everything related to recording in Streamlabs Desktop. First, let's talk about some of the decisions you're going to have to make before choosing the settings for your video. The first one would be resolution. That is the dimensions and width by height of your individual video frame for your video. Typically, this is done in some sort of HD resolution, such as 1920 by 1080 for 1080p HD or 1280 by 720 for 720p HD. With YouTube videos, you instantly get a quality upgrade if you produce a video in what's called 1440p, which is 2560 by 1440, or 4K, which is 3840 by 2160. This is less important for slow desktop stuff, art videos, talking head, but anything action-packed or with a lot of detail, or gaming, for example, you get a significant quality bump due to the higher bit rates assigned to the transcoding on YouTube, which is just the quality copies they make if you do 1440p or higher. So for this, we'll go to settings, video, and then you have a couple different resolution options. There's the base canvas resolution, which is what your entire frame of everything you have in it consists of. So like, an actual artist canvas, it is the size of the frame. And then the output scaled resolution is the size it would be viewed at. In streaming, there's a lot of different use cases for this. In video, you almost always want these the same. And again, 1440p or higher. But if you're working with sources that are not higher than 1080p, like a capture card, your screen's only 1080p, whatever, then you can set your base canvas resolution to that HD resolution and use the higher resolution in the output scaled resolution to produce 1440p or 4K videos from standard HD sources to still take advantage of that higher quality option on YouTube. There's also a scale filtering algorithm here. You're going to want this to be bicubic. That is pretty much the only option you want to use. The default bilinear is faster on your computer, but it looks significantly worse, and Lanczos can appear a little bit sharper, but adds a lot of artifacting and unwanted errors that you don't want to mess with. The other number we need to talk about is your frame rate, your frames per second, the amount of frames that your video will update per second. For just chatting, talking head streams, coding streams, art streams, those kinds of things, 30 FPS, totally fine. Shouldn't really push for anything beyond that. But if you're doing fast-paced action game streams, people will tend to prefer 60 frames per second these days, especially if you're coming from any console that's not the Nintendo Switch. And so you just type in 60 here instead of 30. But if you're just doing a just chatting or talking stream or something, 30 frames per second is what you want to go with. In the last video, we covered stream encoder settings. In this one, we're going to cover recording encoder settings, which are very similar, but you have some different decisions to make. After you've set up your stream settings, you also have the option of choosing a separate recording quality for your recording. This is awesome. By default, it's set to same as stream. So you can just automatically, whenever you hit record, it's going to save the exact copy that you streamed to Twitch or YouTube or whatever to your hard drive if you hit record, which is great. However, if you're doing YouTube edits of your streams or whatever, that quality will not hold up super well because it's already crushed to a really low bit rate, and then you have to edit it, compress it again, and then run it through YouTube compression for the video. It's going to come out looking like garbage. So in that case, if you're doing either dedicated recordings or stream VOD recordings, I would recommend at least starting with high quality medium file size here. And then you can absolutely, I would recommend choosing one of the hardware encoders. If you have access to it, I recommend using the hardware HEVC encoder. This is available on GTX 10 series and back for NVIDIA, AMD going back to the RX like 580. So quite a few years of graphics card here, and then all the Intel cards can do it. This is going to give you the most efficient in terms of quality and performance video encoding, and is compatible with most editors. If you're specifically using DaVinci Resolve to edit, you could also use the AV1 encoder if you have a newer graphics card from AMD, Intel, or NVIDIA that supports it. If you don't have it, it just won't show up here, and that's fine. But that only works really in DaVinci Resolve. It's not going to work out of the box in Adobe Premiere or a lot of the other video editors. In that case, you can use H.264 if you want, but I strongly urge you to use HEVC. And all of these will work if you just upload it directly to YouTube as well. If you are doing dedicated recordings instead of stream VODs, I would recommend bumping up the quality to indistinguishable here. I would not use this for live streams because the resulting file is just going to be super massive for a multi-hour live stream that you're going to fill up your hard drives really quickly, and it's going to be a pain in the butt to juggle. But if you're doing dedicated recordings, definitely go with this. You also have the lossless quality option. This creates a UT video codec AVI file that is completely lossless, and even for like 30 seconds of video, it's like 20 gigs. Don't recommend it unless you're doing specific like lossless quality analysis stuff like I do. Most people, indistinguishable should be your cap. Recording format. I highly recommend coming down here and choosing MKV for this. This is a container, so just the file extension, not the codec itself. We already determined that's either H.264 or HEVC, and we already picked our encoders. This is the container that it's put in, which is denoted by a file extension. MP4 is what you're used to, MOV maybe, but MKV is one that is less prone to corruption. So let's say your computer crashes, or Streamlabs crashes, or your power goes out, or something. If you are recording to MP4, that file is most likely corrupted, and it will either be expensive or impossible to recover. However, if you record to MKV, it's most likely going to be fine. You may miss the last like 20 seconds of what happened in your stream before your power went out, but otherwise, you're fine. I highly recommend using that, and then you can either just quickly shuffle it back to MP4, or most video editors, even Resolve these days, lets you edit it. The last option here under the simple encoding is you get the option to set up instant replay buffer here to get quick clips separate from your stream VOD. These will just use whatever your recording settings are, and then you can set a time for it. So let's say I want 30 seconds. That way I can hit a hotkey. If we come over here to the hotkeys section, I can go to save replay. I can just hit a hotkey and automatically have a 30-second clip that I can then use the instant replay features here in Streamlabs, or upload or edit or send off to an editor or whatever. Or if you want to set up advanced output mode, which allows you the multiple audio tracks that we covered before, we can cover those options too. Under recording, similar options. You can manually choose your codec and then your bitrate. So if you're recording, instead of doing CBR bitrate, so rate control, this option here, for live streaming, it's always CBR, which is constant bitrate. This means that you are always sending the same amount of bits every second to the stream, which is absolutely important for a live streaming environment so that nothing needs to buffer. You don't randomly send a lot more bits to your viewer and then their phone can't load it or something. Super important. For recording, it's not a good option because the contents that you are streaming changes over time, especially if you're playing a video game. Like what's on screen can change in complexity at any given moment. So instead, I recommend choosing CQP, which is a constant quality target, and 20 by default is fantastic. HEVC codec, CQP of 20, you are going to have wonderful image quality. And when you're recording, if you are doing manual recording settings like this to record in a higher quality than your stream, which is what we're setting up here, set keyframe interval to 1. Typically for streams, it's 2. 1 will help your video editor perform a little bit better. But then you can start turning off some of these higher quality things. Like you no longer need the P5 slow preset. You can come over here to P3 fast. It's going to run a lot faster on your system, and the quality will not change because we are already doing a quality target. Tuning, I'd still leave on high quality. You don't want to mess with tuning pretty much in any scenario here. And then multipass mode, if again, these are NVIDIA specific options, but you can change it to single pass. And turn off look ahead and psychovisual tuning for NVIDIA cards. For AMD cards, I'll have a brief example on screen, same thing for Intel. But you want like this. You don't need to have the highest quality tuning for recording because your recording quality is going to be determined by this option here, and the other options do not play a role anymore. And then under audio, you can choose audio bit rates, which for recording, you can crank that up to 320. For streaming, I would leave it at 160 for our first audio track here. Recording YouTube videos is a scenario where I'd recommend having a separate scene collection set up from whatever you're using to stream, or at least a bunch of extra scenes here, because obviously we already have a ton for our stream. We've got our offline scene, our BR backs, and all of that. It can be a little messy to keep up with everything. So I'm going to make a new scene collection by clicking the name of the one we're on now, which is just an overlay pack from the Streamlabs library. Manage scene collections, and we're going to choose Start Fresh. And I'm going to call this Recording. And this one's going to be optimized just for recording, which means probably not a whole lot of overlays in a lot of scenarios. So scene number 1, we're going to rename, and it's just webcam. We're going to add our webcam to it. Video capture card, add source, MX Brio. Choose it from the list. We're going to pop it up to the highest resolution that we have available and add it to our scene. Now, since we have a 4K webcam and a 4K desktop, we could increase our resolution here to 4K. So if I go down here to settings, video, we could increase our resolution here. With Streamlabs, you kind of have the same settings across all of your scene collections so that you have a pretty consistent result of whichever one you're in. And so that is a scenario where perhaps instead of 1080 scaled to 720 as our default, maybe our base resolution is that 4K resolution, 3840 by 2160, and then our output, we just change between whenever we're recording versus streaming. Maybe that's how we want it. So then I reset transform my 4K webcam, and we are here and good to go. And then we'll make another scene. We'll call this one display, add our monitor capture. Everything like that is good. And then we'll make another one. We'll call this game room. And I'm going to add my NDI camera. That is a network connected camera that is in my game room. Apparently the camera's pointed at the ceiling right now, so that's not a very flattering angle. But you get the idea. So then we could switch between these scenes purely for recording, which would make things a lot easier. Now, if we want to set up scene transitions, when we were doing streaming, those were set up automatically. We have this button right here that we haven't really explored a whole lot. If you click that, you can edit your scene transitions. So for example, I can set one that is a swipe instead of just a cut. We'll call this swipe left. Done. Make that one the default. But you also have this connections menu, so you can actually set it up so that it goes in between other scenes. We may have a whole separate section of this course dedicated to transitions. But let's just say if we're going from our webcam to our display, we want it to swipe left. But then our default is just a cut. So now if we go from webcam to display, boom. But if we go from display to game room, it's just a cut. Game room to webcam. You can customize it from there. But that way you have a whole separate recording scene collection set up there. All of that was for standard videos widescreen for YouTube. If you want to make TikTok videos, then we need to set our video resolution to a vertical one. So in the base canvas resolution option, we actually have some vertical options, which are the same numbers, just kind of flipped. So now if we choose 1080 by 1920, we're given a vertical canvas, and we can recenter ourselves here. Also, to make that quicker, you can right-click, transform, center on screen, and then we can resize our desktop to maybe we want the whole thing just kind of, that way we have our settings adapted here, and then we can reformat whatever elements we want to add to our canvas for this vertical format. Now, another thing you will want to consider when you're recording is multiple audio tracks. I covered this in the audio mixer episode if you want a little bit more of a deep dive, but in Streamlabs, if you go to output settings and choose advanced mode instead of simple, under recording, you have these extra boxes where you can enable up to 6 audio tracks that can be recorded. By default, if you're streaming, you're just sending a standard stereo track, a single stereo track that has all of your sources, your system sound, your music, your game, your microphone, your alerts, all sent to one track so that obviously your viewers on the other end can hear it while you're live. When you're recording, you might want the flexibility to manipulate those in post. Maybe if you're doing highlights or you want to make a specific video from a segment you had in your stream, you just want your microphone. You don't want alerts popping off. You don't want music playing in the background. Or if you do have that, you want to control those levels a little bit more independently. For that, we can use these multiple audio tracks. So under streaming, you can choose which audio track the stream pulls from. Leaving it on one is going to make your life a lot easier. But under streaming, you can enable some additional audio tracks to be recorded. Again, up to 6 total. Now, you can uncheck the stream one if you don't want the final mix. I like including it just in case in whatever video you're editing, a certain thing happens on stream that you may want to include in the edit independently of whatever other mixing you're doing. So once you enable that, you are recording those multiple tracks, but then you have to manually assign them. So under your mixer, or next to your mixer, there is a little cog here for advanced audio settings. Here you're given the additional audio track. So you have your stream track, which obviously they're all assigned to one, but if you don't want a device assigned to that, for example, we have an audio device listing for our webcam. We already have a microphone. We don't want that. So we're going to hide it in the mixer entirely. We're going to remove it from the audio tracks, and we're going to go ahead and mute it just to be safe. Might as well do all of it just to make our lives easier. But then for our additional audio tracks, we got desktop audio. I want that only going to track 3, so that if I want access to my desktop sound, it is available in track 3. If I want my microphone sound, I only want that on track 2. And then when I edit, I can mute or otherwise manage the levels of these other tracks separately in a video editor. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in DaVinci Resolve here. So I'm here inside DaVinci Resolve, and if I drag on our sample recording with the multiple audio tracks, you can see here it automatically populates our audio list here with 3 audio tracks. The first one is going to be our stream track. The second one is our microphone only as we selected. And the third one is our desktop only. And then I can mute out the stream track if I want to manage the levels myself. And I can either unlink clips and then kind of move them independently, or I can just adjust the levels here on the track selector to balance them as I want, or I can use the individual track levels as well. You have a lot of options here, and you can set up side chaining within Resolve itself as well. Very powerful stuff, but you can see here you have the 3 individual audio tracks as literal tracks on your timeline. Another really powerful feature available in Streamlabs Desktop is called Selective Recording, which allows you to not only record your canvas that you're streaming with or whatever, but also record an individual source to its own recording in case you want to make just gameplay highlights for a cool montage, or just your reaction cam that you can add or like zoom in on in your highlights, or something along those lines. That feature is really powerful, and I'm going to show you how to set that up now. So this assumes that you've already set up your traditional recording settings here. So we've got NVIDIA HEVC, we've got our CQP value. So this is our standard full canvas recording. But then you select a source. So we have a standard gameplay scene. I've got my webcam, I've got my game running in the background. We select the source in our sources list, and this icon right here, not this one, toggle selective recording. When you click this button, you open up a world of possibilities for your recording, and it can be a little intimidating at first. So once we've clicked it, we get a bunch of options, or a bunch of buttons now, one next to each individual source, that lets you know whether it's visible on stream, on your recording, or both. And to get a better visual of this, you can actually right-click any of these, go to projector, and then you can create projectors for both your stream output and your recording outputs. So we're actually going to do both. I got stream and recording, and I'm going to go ahead and actually, it's going to be a little confusing, but I'm going to resize my window here. So the bottom one is recording only, the top one is streaming only. And right now, everything goes to both in this scene. But we can change that. We can come in here in our sources list over here, and let's say I don't want my alerts in my recording. I can set it only visible on stream. Obviously, we don't have alerts coming in right now, so you don't see anything, but we can continue that with, say, the webcam frame. Let's say I just want the gameplay. We're just going to turn everything else to only visible on stream. I'm just going to come and click this once to everything except our gameplay source, and even the background. And now our recording is just our gameplay. Really great for those looking to make highlights videos or montages or whatever. Or in the inverse, we can set the game to only go on stream and set our webcam to only be in recording. Now, obviously it is a little cropped in and stuff, but like we can more easily work with that in post. Or if we want gameplay recording, but not the overlays, not the alerts and everything, we just have a more natural looking kind of overlay situation going, we can do that. Same thing with, say, our just chatting scene. If we switch over to that, we can turn everything else to just stream and just have a clean view of our recording, which again, we'll have to crop in editing, but like that's fine. And you can see we're getting less of a crop on me because it's the full source that the overlay kind of blocks off. And so we have all that to work with in case we want to for our edit, which is really powerful stuff. I just wanted to jump in here real quick to show a workaround for the webcam thing. So my example I was detailing, you can hide your gameplay and just have your webcam, but then it's still a little, a small view of your webcam. It's not full frame. What you can do is you can add a second copy of your webcam source here. So if we just do add source, video capture, add source, and add our webcam, but keep it full size of our frame here. So right click, transform, fit to screen, and then move that source below everything else. Now we can tell our normal webcam source. Now this will use a little bit more resources, just to be clear, but we can tell our normal webcam source to not be visible on the recording, and then just the big one is. And then you have a full copy of your webcam ready to throw in alongside your stream VOD when you want to punch into your webcam and get a full quality copy webcam. I failed to show that in the original take of this, but I think it's a really important workaround that you can still have the cropped webcam view in your stream and the full webcam view in your recording. So now if I hit record, shoobity bop, shoobity bop, 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 and double check where I told it to save my recordings at here, which is just my videos folder, naturally. We have just our webcam in very high quality. And this is something we could alternate between our traditional stream VOD and this in an edit if we sync them up, which would be pretty cool. Let me know in the comments if you want a video on taking a stream VOD and additional clips or selective recordings or whatever and lining those up in a video edit in DaVinci Resolve. I might have a DaVinci Resolve tutorial course on the way at this point. I think it is about time. The last thing I want to show you for recording is setting up your hotkeys for everything. Very important to not just be trying to Alt-Tab out of your game and using your mouse to switch scenes or do whatever. If you don't have a control surface like a Stream Deck or a touch portal setup or whatever, just use traditional hotkeys. So settings in the bottom left, hotkeys, and then you have a bajillion hotkeys available for every action you could possibly imagine. We're just going to focus on recording controls and scene switching for the moment. So start streaming. You don't really need a start streaming one because you're going to start streaming before you start whatever, but maybe start and stop recording if you plan on recording different sections of your stream and not the whole thing. Maybe I want Alt F8, and we can set the same hotkey for start and stop so that we know Alt F8 starts and stops my recording and don't have to memorize something else. We can also set up a save replay if we're using the replay buffer, as I covered. We can do Alt F7. So if you are recording a stream VOD and maybe you want to make sure that the section you're about to do is right at the start of a clip so that you can easily find it during editing, we could say Alt F6 for that one. Obviously, don't use Alt F4 as we're working our way down the numbers here for a hotkey because that will just close whatever window's open. We got ones for in-game overlays. You can use it for switching to scenes, all of that jazz. And now we have those hotkeys available. This gives you a lot more professional of a presentation in your stream. If you're in the middle of, gaming, maybe you just died for a second, you want to switch scenes to a different angle or whatever. If you're just doing it, quietly off screen with your hands on the keyboard rather than, all right, guys, got to Alt Tab, got to find the scene. Which scene was it again? Oh, not that one, not that one, not that one, whatever. Just having dedicated buttons, you're going to look so much more pro to your viewers. And it's not even about just looking like professional, but about just providing a kind of smooth, seamless experience. If you missed everything or you're looking for more information, full tutorial course playlist link will be in the description below. As always, remember to be kind, rewind.